In the sun.
Los Angeles, Californië. Woonplaats van de eerste man in de muziekgeschiedenis van wie meer dan de magische 1 miljoen LP's werden verkocht. En die er aan het begin van zijn carrière, nu ruim 35 jaar geleden, zo uitzag.
Oh, the crab, it is said, walks in reverse. For your true love, my darling, I'd walk on my head.
Harry Belafonte. Puur bij toeval werd hij artiest.
When I came out of the United States Navy at the end of the Second World War, I was working as a janitor, a maintenanceman in a building. And having done a repair in an apartment, I was given 2 tickets as a gratuity to a black theater, which I'd never seen. And I went to this theater out of curiosity and out of a sense of entertainment and all that goes with it. And sitting in that theater watching black people on stage, speaking to life, speaking to their truth, deeply moved me. As a matter of fact, at the end of the performance, which was the last night of the play, coincidentally, I went to thank the person who gave me the ticket because they were performing in the play. And while there, the technicians began tearing down the set, and they needed some assistance because it was a community theater, and I jumped in to help in the emergency of the moment. And I wound up staying there not only all night, but every night thereafter. I found a home, I found a sense of purpose, I found a condition under which much that I would ever dreamed to do was embodied in that aesthetic. And as a consequence, it led me to read, it led me to enjoy the idea of a book, it led me to understand that there were other ways of confronting life other than violence, because I was quite used to that and quite prepared to use it, as a matter of fact. But that was, to me, the pivotal moment when I understood that theater was the greatest weapon in the world.
Een gesprek met Harry Belafonte is praten met een van de meest gedreven artiesten ter wereld. 61 jaar geleden werd hij geboren in New York, in de in die jaren nog uiterst agressieve negerwijk Harlem. Al op jeugdige leeftijd nam moeder Belafonte het gezin mee naar Jamaica, waar hij een totaal andere cultuur leerde kennen, die een sterke invloed zou hebben op Belafonte's muziek. Al jong ook maakte Belafonte kennis met het verschijnsel rassendiscriminatie, bijvoorbeeld bij een bezoek aan een nachtclub.
I went to the Copacabana with my date, with the first monies I had ever really accumulated as a member of the armed forces. And feeling that wearing the uniform of my country and being one of the young toughs on the way to conquer fascism, that I had access to everything that my country had to offer, certainly in New York City. And when I went to the Copacabana, I was rejected. I was not seated because of color. It was somewhat poetic that some years later, having successfully gained recognition as an artist, I was called upon to perform in the very place that had denied me access some years earlier. So there was some sense of victory in that, especially since the management was the same.
A dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream.
Martin Luther King. Hij speelt een hoofdrol in Belafonte's leven. Hier ziet u hem op Kings begrafenis. Belafonte was de rechterhand en adviseur van Martin Luther King. Schouder aan schouder streden zij voor gelijke rechten voor blank en zwart. En ook na diens dood bleef Belafonte strijdbaar in de geest van King. Om die reden ook werd hij onderscheiden met onder andere de Dag Hammarskjöld Medal en de Martin Luther King Vredesprijs.
Well, certainly Martin Luther King influenced me in that. As a person of color, born in the United States, he was able to, in his lifetime, seize a very positive point of view about life in the midst of a time when most people were feeling deeply negative, feeling a great sense of loss and hopelessness, and feeling a great absence of faith in anything that the society in which we lived had to offer. King's presence meant for many of us that there was not only the opportunity to think about change, but the opportunity to also effect change.
Belafonte bleef zich inzetten voor de strijd tegen apartheid, zoals recentelijk hier in het Wembley Stadion in Londen.
We salute you, Nelson Mandela. And we want to see you and your fellow political prisoners free.
You dedicated a big part of your life to the fight against racial discrimination. Were you in a good position as an entertainer to do that? Was that a special position? Was it an advantage?
Well, it was more than just being an entertainer. I think being an artist is a gift, really. It was something that I was endowed with, and my job was to perfect it, to care for it. Something comes through me. It was the public's acceptance of me as an entertainer that made the difference. There are many entertainers who do not enjoy quite as much public acceptance as I have experienced. And it is my belief that once you have been given that platform, you should use your art in the service of those things that enhances civilization. This is not something unique to me. I believe that's what Shakespeare did. I think he used his art, but he was a great humanist. I think it was what Beethoven did. I think it was what Van Gogh did. I think it was what many of the artists whom I revere throughout history has done with their art, and have been the ones who've been the most enduring. She does not lazy dance, her hands on me. She does not talk, no pretty talk. She pleasures silently. With her I'm summer, I warm easy to her heat.
Belafonte. Hoe kijkt hij, 3/4 jaar na diens vertrek uit het Witte Huis, terug op het presidentschap van Ronald Reagan?
He drove a great sense of panic into many of us who had worked so diligently towards the goals that were achieved in the civil rights movement on the one hand, and he created an atmosphere, I think, of accommodation to racist attitudes which resurrected themselves in the United States and even resulted in behavior where citizens were set upon citizens and killing took place. I mean, in New York, not just whites on black, which is the majority of the time, but also incidents where blacks turned on whites. And there seemed to be an accommodation of that sense of nationhood that just didn't exist prior to Reagan's life. Even Nixon, who may have been not quite as sensitive to us as, say, Kennedy was, Nixon was infinitely more sensitive to the issues of the people of the so-called third world and people of color than Reagan.
Een zeer sociaal bewogen kunstenaar. De grote initiator achter het We Are The World project. Vroeger al door president Kennedy benoemd tot adviseur van diens Vredeskorps. Een artiest die zowel tijdens als buiten zijn optredens zijn persoonlijke overtuiging wil laten horen. Sinds een aantal jaren is Belafonte ook ambassadeur van UNICEF. Hij gelooft in die organisatie.
You once wrote a letter to the people of Holland saying, there are no simple solutions to the needs of the hungry and the poor of the world. But my question remains, is there any solution?
Yes. The solution, I believe, lies in each of us as an individual. Because the first commitment has to come from the individual. You have to be willing in your heart and your mind to say, I belong to the world, I'm a part of nature. I do not command it. I should be in harmony with it. And if you have achieved that inner peace, if you've achieved that inner commitment, then I think you can definitively change your community, change your family attitude, change the attitudes among your own children. You can change the attitudes in your church. Yes. You can even change the attitudes in your country, and certainly change the attitude of politics. I think there have been individuals who have not only expressed that and have achieved that, but I think it is the only way in which societies, with what goes on in South Africa, for instance, there's a commitment there among young people who have denied the traditional behavior of history and have said, never again will we be the victims of apartheid as has been classically experienced. We will make a new order. It is that individual commitment that is making a difference in South Africa, that is appealing to and attacking the moral conscience of the rest of the world, that's making the kind of difference. So I do believe very much in the will of the individual and that we do make a difference. It is we who can make that change, and I think the change will come.
En dan is hij ook nog toegewijd huisvader van 4 kinderen, onder wie misschien wel de mooiste dochter ter wereld, Shari. En inmiddels ook nog opa met 2 kleinkinderen en een regelmatig bezoeker van ons land.
Skin to skin, skin to skin, the light it shine on me, the light it shine on me.
Talking about Holland, you've been there 5 times. Is any special image coming to your mind when you hear the word Holland?
Yes, they're images in extremes, to be quite honest. I've often felt for the people of Holland that I know, it is unfortunate that that the Afrikaans should be considered Dutch, or to be called Dutch. In the United States, for instance, when you speak about the evolution of the European invasion of that continent, one thinks of the Pilgrim Fathers coming from Holland, that it was the beginning of a new order in civilization. And maybe a new disorder as well, but nothing new ever comes that doesn't come out of some struggle of the preceding evil. But when I go to Holland, I'm always aware of the fact that the Dutch are consistently in the forefront of the spoken word and philosophies, even at the United Nations, that speak in behalf of human justice. When you talk about appealing to international law, one thinks of The Hague, and where you go to try the great cases of humankind. And when you go and you look at Van Gogh House, and you see the kind of people that have been produced in art, and I even went and saw the Night Watch, which had been so cruelly attacked, and how much care it was taken to restore it, and how magnificent it all was to see again restored and looking healthy. There's a lot to life in Holland that's appealing, and there's also a lot about Holland that keeps reminding you that the Dutch were also once upon a time colonialists and killers and conquerors. But no one is exempt.
No.
Winter inside of me, ice will fight the storm. She cannot see what I hide in me. I can't be strong beside her warm. She's too close.
Ten slotte vroegen we ook aan Belafonte zijn eerste reactie op een aantal namen.
Danny Kaye.
An artist who truly found out how to use himself. I think what he did with UNICEF truly put UNICEF on the map. I think it was an artist that was most pivotal to UNICEF's earliest needs.
Martin Luther King.
I think when one thinks of the eternal hope of the highest in humankind, the highest in human spirit, the highest and the best in human behavior, one thinks of Martin Luther King as one thinks of Jesus Christ, and as one thinks of Muhammad and Buddha and all the rest.
Shari.
A child who survived her father's image. All my children, I think, have paid a price for being a Belafonte. I'm sure they'll speak most eloquently in their own behalf, but I've often thought about what it must mean to them all to have to exist in my shadow. They're entitled to their own opinions, they're entitled to their own thoughts. They should not really have to live out their lives according to my prophecies or according to my dictates. And I think Shari has taken very good advantage of both, being a Belafonte and being very much the individual.
UNICEF.
UNICEF, I think, at this time in my life has become a great gift. It's a great joy to be able to be in something that I don't have to start. I'm in something that is already functioning, and I'm moving among a group of men and women who represent almost every society on this planet and who are making a difference in the world, and it's wonderful to be a part of that parade.
Yes. Does Harry Belafonte consider himself a privileged man?
Very, very.
Thank you very much.
She does not lazy dance her hands on me. She does not talk no pretty talk. She pleasures silently. With her I'm summer, I warm easy to her heat. She fill me full, she fill me full, she make me complete.